Littleton one here. I was asked if I ever got the truck to stop smoking. Um, yes and no. I did get the truck to. Where the hell are you? I did get the truck to stop smoking. However, I wasn't able to just let it burn itself out. And the reason for that is because of how the exhaust is made on this. I guess you could say it's a mini resonator. This has holes in it to deaden the sound. There's oil and water mixture all inside of this. All the chambers inside of this muffler is gunked. I can't even tell what's in that little one. I can't even tell you what's in the little one because I don't know what's in the little one because I can't. There's no clear way of looking into it without. I guess I could take my my camera and send it down in there, but I mean, what's the point? What I did do was I replaced the entire exhaust. Oh God, Jesus Christ! I did replace the entire exhaust. Obviously not the cats, because the cats are going to burn it out anyway. Except the muffler. The muffler's not going to get hot enough to burn off that oil, unlike the cats will. I did get a used steering wheel. I ended up having to buy the entire steering wheel. Well, the entire oh God, what do you call it? The entire. I'm really tired. I just got from underneath the truck. I had to buy the entire steering column to get it. The reason for that is because on these trucks, the intermediate shaft disconnects, and they call that the entire steering column. So you can't go to a salvage yard that's trying to make a profit and get just the steering wheel, because you can't even get. If you get the steering wheel, you won't get the airbag. You have to actually buy the airbag separately. You have to buy the airbags separately. If you want the steering wheel, you got to buy the whole steering column. If you want just this multi-function switch, which is it, oh God, this is my old one, the one that doesn't work. If you want that, you still have to buy the whole steering column, or pay $100 for a brand new one from the dealership. Well, I ended up getting the used steering column, which has to be cleaned up, obviously. I ended up getting that, which came with the steering column. I mean, the steering column control module is what it's called. It's called an SCCM. And I know it's a clock spring, but in the computer, it will actually say SCCM, I just said it. The clock spring. Let's just call it the clock spring. I'm really tired right now. It comes with the clock spring. It comes with your because when you get these from the salvage yard, the steering panels or the column covers are still on it, so you can't get this switch just off of it. You can pull those off and pull that out at a you pull it without having to pull all of that. You can. But that's at a you pull it, not at a typical actual salvage yard. Your typical salvage yards sell you the parts and they'll send someone out to buy the part. Whereas here, in a you pull it, you can go out there and pull that part without having to pull everything else. However, in my situation, I kind of had to buy the entire. I didn't have to buy the steering column. The reason I didn't want to do that is because this steering column control module, Jesus Christ, that module alone is, well, this particular model here. This particular model is this particular model is $289. And the reason for that is because this one comes with the voice call for you to control through your radio. And basically that's it. All of this stuff here is no different than what was on my other steering wheel. The only difference is this comes with this. This is not a heated steering wheel. At least I don't think it is. I'm about 80% sure it's not. But the only thing this comes with is the voice recognition and the calling, which I had to upgrade to since I upgraded the radio. I don't know if the steering column actually works 100%. I do know that on the Alltel it does recognize. I have rust. Oh, that's clay dirt. Okay, that's from when I was laying underneath the truck trying to hold the exhaust up. But as you notice, it's the same color as that's on that. But with the Alltel, I see the steer angle sensor responding. The computer lets me talk to the steering control module. The transmission, the powertrain module, the ABS all recognize and understand the steering wheel control module. They all accept it. I've got to plug in my YTech and see if it needs to be flashed. But I have to redo my subscription, and I don't want to redo my subscription until I get the occupant restraint module and a new computer. Now, the computer I have in there is my original computer, which is sealed up right now. I don't 100% trust it, about 80, let's say 80% trust it. But I want to get all of those before I actually do that. The other thing I have to figure out is where in the hell in this truck, which is interesting because I pulled the entire interior of this truck. Maybe it's underneath, I don't know. I have to find where the dynamic sensor is on this truck. That's the only sensor that is throwing a code and having the check engine light on, which is coming through the ABS. That's the only sensor, and I'm trying to figure out where the hell that is. I'm going to look it up some more and see where it is. I'm pretty sure a lot of people want to see if it's still smoking. I do have to order another 2 more of these keys, these fobs. On my video before, I was saying these are actually fob keys. These are, if you actually look in your scan tool, it'll actually say fob key. Well, fobs kick or whatever. These are fobs. The fobs, because I had this discussion last night with my coworker. All right, a fob key is all plastic, and in general circumstances, a fob key still has to go into the ignition. In general, fob keys do that. A skim key is a chip that has a regular key on it that has a end on it with a chip on it. Now here's the thing. These chips, this one doesn't have one, this is just plastic, but just an example. If you have a car that has a key on the end that has like a fob remote on the top of it, that's not a fob key. Okay, no matter how much it's called one, that's not a fob key. That is just a regular skim key that just happens to have fob controlling on it. Frequency operated buttons. That's all it has on it. It's not an actual fob. Well, it's a fob, but it's not a fob key, because your actual communicating with the truck or vehicle is through the actual, you have to have it cut and you have to have that chip. These are true fobs. A true fob doesn't have, this is a true fob. Do I have one? I was trying to see if I had another one in here. They're in the house. A true fob is generic. I can take my generation truck, basically any generation Chrysler with this particular key, whether or not it has my frequency on it or not, and take this and stick it in the ignition, and it will say wrong key fob. And I can turn it and everything, but it will not operate the vehicle. That's a true fob because it doesn't have anything specific on it. All it is a generic key that you can stick in the ignition and you can turn it. That's a fob. Now, the ones that are plastic like this that still have the keys where you can push the little slide and it slides out this little key, the valet key, those keys are called transmitters. They're not actually fob keys. They're transmitters. The Rams, this generation Ram also comes with one, except you have to upgrade it to do that. I will look into doing that later. I'll look into doing that. I'll look into changing out the entire head unit to the Tesla version of it. But see if alternator. Another thing a lot of people wanted to know, the alternator. Yes, the alternator is fine. Believe me, I myself also wondered about the exhaust. I mean, not the exhaust, but I myself also wondered about the alternator because it was underwater. I'm not gonna trust it, but I'm not gonna just sit there and just replace it when I have other stuff that I need to replace as well. But here you go. Oh, Jesus. It is running, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it is at operating temperature. If I'm not mistaken, it is at operating temperature, and yes, it is. It is at operating temperature, and it's running, because I just not too long ago turned it off anyway. But it is running. It is not smoking. No exhaust leaks. As you can hear, it's really quiet. I'll have to actually rev it for you to actually hear it, but. But the let me turn it back on. All right, the traction light is due to the dynamic. Well, there we go. Is due to the dynamic controller. Okay, the dynamic controller is the reason that light's on. The check engine light is because I love this part. Been missing doing that. You have no idea how much joy that is to do that. And as I said before, like there's the exhaust and everything. Like I said before, Copart had the water line here, is where they had the water line. But if you recall, I pushed the button. If you recall, the water line was actually up to here because everything behind this up to the bottom of that radio was underwater because that's where the actual water line was. And if you take that into account, the actual water line was at minimum here. But water signs showed that it at least came up to here. Let's see. Yeah, that's where the bottom of the radio is. It at least came that far. So it came to about 1 inch to 2 inches below the actual door line. So in essence, the entire truck was officially underwater. So, I mean, it's not Copart's fault. Copart doesn't really know, taking neutral ground, obviously, doesn't really know what the water line is. When Copart gets it, I keep pushing the lock for the Ram, but not the Pathfinder, because the actual key is in the door. But Copart doesn't know. Again, taking neutral ground, does not know what the actual water line is. So basically, if you take, what they'll do in most cases is, I just lock the door back. What they'll do is they'll open up, and wherever, as you can see it, since I haven't washed the truck, here's where the water line's at on this. This is where as dirty as it goes up. And if I hold my finger right there at where it's the dirtiest at, it's roughly right there where that line is. And if you take that into account, actually, that's right there. Yeah, right there, roughly in that spot, give or take a ½ inch or so. So if you go in there and just look at, okay, here's where the water line is that I can see. Because if you sit here and look at where this line is, and look at where the dirtiest part of the truck is, it's right there. And you would think, okay, that's where the water line is. But after pulling panels, you could clearly tell the water line was nowhere near that. It's almost a foot, if not a foot, higher than that. So, in essence, I basically bought a truck. Okay, keep in mind, I did buy this truck sight unseen. Obviously, because it was from Texas. So I did buy this truck sight unseen. Flooded. All I know is that it did not start a run, and it only was enhanced, which basically means they tried their best to clean it up. which it doesn't matter because when I got the truck, it had so much dirt on it from it was sitting at the Royal Purple Raceway in Texas, so it was sitting there anyway. So it didn't really matter if it was a enhanced or not, because it got right back looking like it was completely underwater. But when I actually get the other components in, Mopar, well, my Mopar dealer, which is right up the road, wants me to bring the truck in to give it a once over. Not particularly to actually give it a clean bill of health. But what they want to do is they want me to bring it in and they look it over. Basically, they're just going to put a scan tool up to it and, ooh, Jesus, wasp. And see if everything's okay with it as far as mechanical wise, which, as you can hear, it does. It's only got 45,000 miles on it with new head gaskets. And new intake manifolds and new exhaust now. But they want to give it a once over so they can give me a little sheet. So when I go to get the truck registered, that it shows that the truck was is officially not rebuilt, but it's officially road ready. Is what they want to do. And it's mostly to do with the fact that they were amazed. At least their warranty manager is just amazed that because when I first got the truck, I took it up there to the dealership to see what all I actually needed on top of what I already knew, and he was just amazed at the fact that because I had the panels and the seats already out, so seeing that the truck was actually underwater almost, if not up to the actual bed line near the windows. When I first took the truck in, nothing worked on it, no light. And when I took the truck back to have the body control module programmed, which they still couldn't program it, which I couldn't figure out why, because I programmed it with ease. But once they got that done, what ended up happening was I went back up there the third time. I can't remember. The third time I went up there to get the RFH module replaced, well, programmed. And what happened was that when I took it up there, I had everything in the truck functioning properly. The only thing it didn't have was the engine running. Obviously, the modules that aren't in there were unplugged, but electrically, the truck worked perfectly. It just needed the frequency module programmed to the new one instead of my donor one. And what ended up happening was that while it was there, I didn't have the seats in it. And I didn't have the kick panels in it. So the tech getting in and out of the truck ended up tearing or ripping the CAN wire that goes to the RFH module out. And what that did when it did it was it killed the entire truck. And the reason it killed the entire truck was because the original RFH module was not in the truck. It was the new one. So as long as the new one was plugged in, it had power to everything, but it couldn't operate anything. Well, the donor one operated every single thing in the truck. You could operate the radio and everything, but you couldn't do that with the new one. Well, with that wire broken, the truck was back dead as a doorknob. You could put a key in, it does nothing. Turn the key, it does nothing. No lights worked. It went back to its original state that it was when I first got the truck. Other than the dome light flashing, it just stayed on. But after I got that done, and they gave me the truck back to, send back home. The warranty manager pulled me aside. He said, and I quote, "If you get this truck running," and basically he told me exactly, "If you don't give up on this truck and get this truck running, bring it back. I want to see it running, and I want one of my techs to look at it to see, if everything's sound on it, and I'll give you a sheet or I forgot what he called it. God, what did he call it? It's some kind of sheet that lets basically it's like a clean bill of health sheet is what he says he's going to give. He said he'll give me one of those So when I go take it to get registered, that won't clear the flood title, but what it will do is it will basically fortify to the DOT that the truck is road ready. It's road safe because the dealer has gone over it. As you can see, the truck does run. The truck does drive. The one thing that I was really worried about was the steering wheel, the electronic power steering itself, because that is a $1,500 part, which apparently there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that it needs is that dynamic sensor, which I got to figure out what the hell it is. But I mean, it still has the the Cowboy dealership thing on it, which that's going to come off, obviously. I have a decal that goes on the back of this truck, American flag, blue stripe, and I have a Street Speed 717 sticker that has to go on the back window. I've got to get a Sam Crack sticker. I've got to get a unwrecked sticker. I've got to do a lot of things. But right now, this is where we're at. I'm stuck basically where I am now until like 2 weeks, because today was the last chance I was going to get it to work on the truck. And I'm happy to see that I got not only it running, but it not smoking. I got the steering wheel module replaced. Oh, the signals works too. The signals work too. Because remember, that didn't work at all. Stick that in there. Because it... Yeah, all that works now. I'm wondering if that dynamic sensor is part of my ABS module. Not my ABS module. I'm wondering if it's part of my occupant restraint module. If it's not part of my occupant restraint module, it's going to be part of the seats, and I got to look in there and see if it's part of the seats. And if it's not part of the seats, that means it's going to be underneath the truck. Which, believe me, right now I'm not really in the best of high hopes of having to get back underneath the truck. Yeah, I'm really not. I don't want to get back underneath the truck. But underneath the engine, I've got to get the AC. I've got to get the AC obviously working, but I'm gonna look into that, because that could be just my module, or the truck just has to be reprogrammed. I'm not tying the dash in yet, because I may have to pull the dash to resync all of the doors on the HVAC module, well, on the HVAC box, and I have to put the air box back on. I have to check all the hoses, make sure they're not rubbing anywhere or anywhere hot they don't need to be. And I have to do a radiator flush and get the water out of it and get actual antifreeze back into it. And I'm mechanically done with the truck. Well, no, it's a lie. Well, yes, mechanically I am done with the truck. The only thing I have to do to the truck mechanically is an oil well, I just did an oil change, but I don't have the correct weight of oil in it. I have Miracle Oil, yeah. I have Miracle Oil in it, and I have a heavier weight or a lighter weight oil. I don't remember what I put in it, but I got that in it to run it enough to where it would get as much of it out. Obviously, I have to keep starting it enough to where yes, there's a new oil filter in it. 2, actually. I've replaced it twice. I do have a spare oil filter for the final oil change when I change the oil again. I have new transmission fluid. I will replace that as well. But I need to get, the engine has to run enough times to get enough oil out of it, and it has to run hot enough to get what oil in it to evaporate. So that's where we're at now. I mean, not a bad outcome. Not a bad outcome indeed. Peace.